All right, what's going on, everybody? It is 5 o'clock on Thursday afternoon here in July. In our small shop in Texas, it's 103 degrees in the shade out here right now. Got about 60% humidity, but inside the shop, we're a cool 78 with the Daikin mini split running up there. So really thankful for that. We're milling up all this Doug Fir here for a large farm table. We're going to glue together a large tabletop. And we just started the milling process, so I thought I would shoot a video of this. We're going to turn all that into a large table to go with some of the waterfall benches that we had left over from our last order. These went to my neighbor a couple doors down, and she needs a large table for her covered patio, so she's going to take these off our hands. We're going to build her a large table and shoot a few video clips along the way. We're going to finish milling them up right now, and then we're gonna start gluing them up. So here we go. All right, guys, I just got done running this through the joiner. As you can see, got a nice flat face on it. So this edge, we flatten this on the joiner so that we have a nice flat face to ride on the planer bed when we run this through the planer to clean up this edge. So it'll all be flat and square with each other. And then we joint this edge nice and straight on the joiner so that when we run it through the table saw, this can have a nice straight edge to run against the fence. So in the next few minutes, when we get done with the planer and the table saw, we'll have 4 perfectly square edges on these boards. And then the next step is going to be to glue these up into a tabletop. And what we're going to do with this, we're going to put some dominoes in these boards just to keep them aligned when we do the glue up, so we don't have to put coals and clamp coals across it to keep everything straight. It's a lot easier to do it that way. Sometimes it is a little more time consuming, but we're going to do this glue up in 3 sections. We're going to glue them up 3 boards wide, which is going to be about 15 inches, which is the max we can run on our planer. So I'll run 2 or 3 sections at a time through the planer, and then we'll glue them up. And at the end of it, we should have a tabletop that's going to be approximately 7.5 feet long by about 38 inches wide. And like I said, this is that Vertical Grain Douglas Fir, so it's going to be nice and stable. This stuff does very well with moisture and won't mold, and insects don't like it. And we're going to finish this with some conversion varnish because it's going to be undercover. So conversion varnish is a very tough finish that we use here. Yeah, they use it on bar tables and bar tops and stuff like that for commercial use, so it's pretty tough. So once we get this done, we're going to be spraying it with that. But right now, the next step, we're going to run through the table saw to clean up the opposite edges, and then we'll be going back through the planer just to get everything cleaned up before we glue up the panel sections, and then we'll plane those to final thickness, which is a nice way to do that because then we don't have to do a lot of work cleaning up our glue lines. And then we'll have probably 3 sections to glue together to get our final width, and we can sand those out, and it's going to come out great. So we'll take some more video of that and keep going. Got the rough milling done. Got them pretty straight and square. Got them down to uniform thickness. We haven't gone to final thickness yet. So what I'm about to do right now is I'm gonna mark these out because this is the pattern I'm looking at. So I'm gonna stay with these. So I'll just put a pyramid on here. This keeps my boards lined up. When I go through the next process, the next thing I'm gonna do, I don't know if you can see this, but there's usually tension in the boards when you initially mill them up. So by milling this one, running it through the joiner, through the planer, through the table saw, it releases a little bit of tension, so there's a little bit of a hook on this one. It's got a bow in it. So we're gonna take that out on the joiner before we join these up. The rest of the joints look pretty good. And what I'll do now is I'll set the joiner to cut at about a 32nd of an inch, a couple of passes to close this up. And what'll happen is, when I get done, I put my boards together like this. just so you can see. But what will happen is when these are properly jointed, there won't be any light showing in between this joint right here. So we'll make sure that all these joints fit closely like that, just with gravity, no pressure on it, no clamp pressure, so that when we glue these up, there won't be any residual tension in any of these planks here. So then the next step will be, after we get these jointed up, we'll keep them in the order we want them, and then I'm going to put some dominoes in these joints just to keep the boards lined up top to bottom, so because they tend to want to slip, and I'm going to do, this is going to be a large glue up, so I'm going to glue these up in 3 sections, 3 boards for 2 of them and then 2 boards for the other ones, so that I can run those. After that comes out of the clamps, I'll run those through the planer again and take it down to the final thickness, and I'll have a nice clean panel, and I'll only have a couple of joints to clean up once the final glue up is done. And then once that's done, we'll trim the ends up and build the base for it. So right now we're gonna joint these up, get them to fit nice and snug, sink a few dominoes in there to keep the alignment up there. And one note about that, guys, I see a lot of stuff out there on the internet. People putting giant dominoes and all this stuff, dowels and whatever. You don't have to do that. I use them just because it makes it easier for me once I start putting these in the clamps. I don't have to rush to get the culls on there to keep them flat and all that stuff. It's just much easier for me to put a few tendons in there to keep them lined up, so when they come together, they're straight. It makes my cleanup after the glue up a lot easier. Plus, while I'm trying to get the clamps on and put everything where I want it, I don't have to worry about my board slipping around on me. So it just saves me a little time because I think I have roughly about 6 minutes, 8 minutes from the time I start laying the glue on the first board to finish this. So it just saves me time, and that's why I do it. Now the wood glue that we use, the PVA glue, is stronger than this wood. So the only way to break that glue joint is to rip the wood out. And on a long grain like this, it takes a lot of force to do that. You can glue up a tabletop panel. You don't need any other reinforcements in there. The wood glue is plenty strong enough to do that. Okay, so that's the reason I'm doing it. I've built hundreds of these tabletops that don't have anything in them, and they've been around for many years. So just a little side note on that, but that's what we're gonna do next. So it's gonna be the jointer, then we're gonna sink a few dominoes, and then we're gonna be going into the clamps with this tabletop, and once that's done, we'll clean it and trim off the ends. It's gonna be about 7 feet long, a little over 3 feet wide when it's done, and then we'll build the base on it, get it all sanded up, and then we're gonna spray it with conversion varnish, and it's gonna go on the covered patio. So that's where we're going next, and I'll shoot a few more clips to show all that. But I thought I would explain what I'm doing in the meantime, just to keep everybody online with what we're doing. All right, let's go. All right, guys, so got all the parts made. Got the table skirt right here. This is just gonna be a base frame. And this is gonna just get screwed to the bottom of the tabletop. And we can get away with that on this table because of the way these boards are sawn. This is vertical grain. So most of the movement's gonna be up and down on the tabletop, so we don't have to worry about side to side movement as much. Plus this vertical grain Doug Fir is very stable, so it's not gonna be a lot of movement. And when you do use screws to bolt down to screw down a tabletop, they do have a little bit of flex, so use discretion when you're figuring out how to mount your tabletops. But there's a lot of other woods out there that move a lot more, but this vertical grain Doug Fir does not move much at all. It's pretty stable, it handles moisture very well, so it's not going to be a big concern. This is going to be outdoors, so we're not going too fancy on it. we're making it so that the table skirt and the base right here will stay screwed to the bottom of the table, and if it has to be taken apart to move, then we have these table legs right here, and they'll just fit on the inside of this frame, and they'll get bolted down so that when the wood starts to dry out and shrinks and things like that, those bolts can be tightened up to keep the table from developing wobbles and things like that, because it is going to be outside. It's going to be under a cover, but things move, different things happen, pieces end up in other environments than they were intended. So this is a good way to do this. This is how we're doing that, and what's happening right now is everything before it gets assembled is going to get 1/8" round over on all the sharp edges just to soften them, so that, you know, sharp edges, the human touch doesn't feel that good, but when you smooth them out a little bit, the wood feels a lot nicer. So that's why we're doing it, and that's about it. So we'll continue shooting a few more clips on this, and we'll finish up getting this table built. We're gonna put the legs on this, sand it up. We're gonna sand up the tabletop slab, which is back there against the wall. Get that all sanded up and smooth out the corners on those. And then we're gonna start shooting these with conversion varnish to get them sealed up, and then this is gonna be finished. This build will be done. So that's what we're doing today.